I have never seen the original Little Mermaid. I know, shock, horror. I don't know why, it just sort of worked out that way. It's on my forever bucket list, but I probably won't ever get around to it unless someone sits me down and forces me to watch it. But who needs to see the original when a remake is being made? Obviously intended to be full-on replacement material anyway, so why not just dive straight into that instead? Every time I Google The Little Mermaid, only the remake pops up anyway. Yet another installment of the unending collection of Disney live-action remakes. We know the beats, it's gonna be soulless, the animal expressions are gonna be awful, crowds of people are gonna be dissatisfied, and demand everyone just go watch the original. And the film will make boatloads and boatloads of money. That's how this industry goes. Except Disney's The Little Mermaid, with the exact same titling as the animation, had a slightly different step one. Sure, there were crowds of eye rollers and that cringe thing about people getting up in arms about the race of an actor and all, but as if Disney had for once done a good piece of PR marketing, there was this swarm of reactions from kids on TikTok. Wholesome, ecstatic, and seen for listening to this preview of a mermaid singing about her toils and woes. And as if like the perfect counter to the usual corporate shill commentary that we all bring, it was like there was still a kind of magic to it all. Sure, it had been done before, and sure, it's probably inferior to the 2D animation, but the story itself could still reach the hearts of children. The concept could still swoon a generation full of hope and romanticism. And so, maybe we were all wrong. Just jaded with age, for Disney is still telling stories that could shape and guide the emotional development of young minds. And then we all saw Flounder! It's awful! Terrible! What is that voice acting? What is that face? You call that animation? Well, demonstrably you do not! Maybe it's not Halle Bailey's fault after all. This isn't Catwoman.
This obsession with humans has to stop.
I just want to know more about them.
Maybe it's not the human that's the issue here, but literally everything else. Well, I finally saw the movie, and you know, that just about wraps it up. I came into this, of course, only knowing some of the details of the plot, but I got the gist. And clearly, Disney did too. Having done so many live-action remakes before, I think they are getting better and better somehow. I would even be willing to say that this is the best Disney live-action yet. But that doesn't necessarily make it a great and perfect film. Halle Bailey is singing her little heart out in the movie, and it's clear that from a character perspective, they've clearly been putting in the maximum amount of effort to make this workable. Ariel is a kind of character that kids have looked up to for decades. Something about her is just so lovable and endearing, as much as she is royalty that somehow has everything except one thing, that she then rebels to make sure she gets too. She's a caged character, wanting to break free from her expectations and explore new territory. Something that can be translated onto kids in all sorts of forms. And I think she does great. I think plot-wise, it's very tough to try and play around with the idea of your protagonist character going mute for the second half of the movie, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised that was even the original idea, to be honest, but trying to express that without the overly expressive animation, too, just sounds awful. But it worked well enough. I mean, Ariel seemed to forget the ability to even nod or shake her head at first, which was kind of frustrating, so I just got used to it. And then she started nodding to say yes later on anyway. Like, stop just staring so blankly, Ariel. You have other options for communication, even if only slightly. What an airhead of a princess this is. Though, I mean, really, yeah, one of the dumbest of all the Disney protagonists. Still, Halle Bailey did a great job, and that certainly helps the film. But then you have Melissa McCarthy, and she absolutely killed it. It's so nice to see a success story from her, since I'm a bit of a normie, and the last thing I remember her in is that Ghostbusters remake. But Ursula as a character is a lot of fun, and they clearly had a lot of fun playing with her. Ursula in general is like one of the greatest characters in The Little Mermaid, you know? She's the aquatic version of Hades. We love the goofy, powerful underworld villains. Wonder what they'll do for Hades. It's apparently the next one on the block already.
That's what I live for.
Someone who fell a little flat for the majority of the movie, though, was actually King Triton. It's funny, from the cast list, I was expecting Javier Bardem to sort of leap off of the screen a little, but I found it difficult to really feel for the guy or get the sense that he really cared about Ariel at all. I think maybe they just presented him as too harsh and aggressive right at the start, but it turned around eventually as the ending took a surprisingly wholesome turn. The acting chops finally appeared once he too came to the surface. And I know the ending is very much well known and liked and established, but this was my first exposure to it, and why didn't the humans ever have a moment of conflict about Eric being with a mermaid, you know? Like, Triton spends the whole time angry at the concept of this interspecies connection, whilst the humans only find out at the last minute, and are just kind of like, yeah, well, at least it's not the witch over there. We'll bypass the tail thing immediately. It's only a minor gripe. Awkwafina was in this movie, not quite what I was expecting, doing her Awkwafina thing. Honestly, I think I might be getting a little fatigued on it, as all her characters seem to just sort of be the same, other than whatever species she is. Maybe that's more of a fault on the style of all these Disney productions ham-fisting the same kind of character into their IPs. At the very least, this one, I guess, is like the original of the gang from 1989. No, wait, actually, that's not how Scuttle was presented at all before. This is just Disney slapping a typecast into their slots. Dislike. Awkwafina is great. I'd just like to see some range. Blame the casting director, or just the director. But musical director? They were fabulous. Of course, in a Disney musical, all the effort goes on those Disney songs, and it pays off. Not only is the singing stellar, but the CGI visuals are always such a delight to see, when they're dancing and not talking. It was just some beautifully crafted entertainment, and there were some creative liberties that separated at least a little bit from the initial 80s version. Like in the song Kiss the Girl, there's a slight lyrical change to adapt to a more modern audience to be a hint more consensual. Instead of there is one way to ask it, it don't take a word, not a single word, go on and kiss the girl, it's switched to use your words, boy, and ask her if the time is right and the time is tonight, go and kiss the girl. Which is a very mature little tweak to an otherwise minor concern. Very good, Disney. And then there were the new songs sprinkled in. Like the one of Eric scuffling along the coast as he exposites his most basic of thoughts. But it's enjoyable anyway. The lines get better later on in that song. They're decent, they're good, they fit in as far as I'm concerned, as someone who didn't know any of the songs beforehand, really. Though there was a casualty in Les Poissons. The French chef is gone. Is it because it's such a stark stereotype? Is it because it features knives? Or is it because if you look back on that sequence again, it's actually incredibly gross to envision with a live-action lens? But hey, you can always just imagine that is what Sebastian was going through before he just manually climbs up to Ariel's room. Sebastian, by the way, took some getting used to, but then, yeah, you get used to it. He is far less expressive, of course, but he does have those beady eyes and a much thicker accent. I never really heard Sebastian before, but it wasn't what I was expecting. He's fun, though. Clearly adding more of those meta jokes in the Disney script, but they basically fit right in with the original lines anyway. By far the biggest success story of an animated animal in this movie, cause Flounder is just not it. I never realized how unprevalent that boy was. Barely in the movie. And when he is, I don't hear a lot of urgency in his voice, and that face is just terrible. Truly a Disney remake moment. Thankfully, he is the one we see the least of. The other humans were good in their classic and standard kind of way. Art Malik as Grimsby comes off as a super charming uncle kind of character, and Jonah Howard King's Eric does a great heartthrob character.
Something about you seems different. I can't quite figure it out. She got legs!
I would go on to say that out of all the Disney live-action remakes that there are, this would probably stand as the best of the bunch. It just has the least negatives associated with it. Yeah, some faces are bad, Awkwafina is there, and the original has a special place in everyone's heart. But this movie isn't heartless. It doesn't feel quite as corporate and soulless as the last few movies. And something about it surprisingly works. Maybe it's because it feels like it could already legitimately be a live-action movie. Like, it feels like Stardust or Enchanted in regards to plot or something. It's flawed still, like, why did they give a 3-day time limit and then entirely skip the 3rd day? Ariel wakes up, spots Ursula in disguise, and then we jump to sunset. As a fresh-faced viewer, that felt weird. Even if that is the pacing of the original. but certainly this live-action remake is among the best of the bunch. Only took them a decade of doing these already to make it work. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. Can't wait to see how they ruin that vibe immediately with Wendy and Peter Pan. Or heck, maybe that Hercules movie too. Bring Danny DeVito back or we'll riot. For now, that's my thoughts. My name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.